All right, welcome back to another week of Amateur Hour. I'm Nolan here with Cyan, and we're going to start off with basketball like usual. And just 2 nights ago, I believe, or just last night, was the Celtics game against the Raptors, where Celtics came out on top. Uh, Although we started off a little bit slow, we picked it up pretty quickly and were able to come out with a pretty solid victory.
With the Celtics' latest win over the Toronto Raptors, the Celtics they are now 5-3. The Celtics they played the game without Marcus Smart as he has a thumb injury and he will likely be out for at least a few games. Now with Smart out, you would expect them to put either Jeff Teague or Peyton Pritchard in at the starting point guard spot. You would expect that, but they ended up putting Tremont Waters there. Now that's a weird move. You wouldn't expect that. But I didn't really care that much as Tremont Waters, he's a young guy. You want him to get minutes, so I wasn't totally opposed to it. But the thing is, Tremont Waters, he played terribly. Like with him starting, the Celtics they would give the Raptors a huge lead. Now it's not just Tremont Waters' fault, but having him in the starting lineup, it exposed his weaknesses. At Tremont Waters, he had a plus minus of minus 17. Minus 17. That's terrible. Now, thank God for Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard, he's amazing. Slim Shady, whatever you call him. He scored 23 points against the Raptors. He was absolutely feasting. He plays with amazing energy, incredibly fast, and he makes the right decisions. Now, Peyton Pritchard, the young rookie, may have scored 23 points, which was pretty phenomenal. Jason Tatum one-upped him, scoring 40 points. Jason Tatum, I'm pretty sure everybody knows this by now, is the owner of the Toronto Raptors. He absolutely sunned them. Pascal Siakam is now Pascal Tatum. Jason Tatum always shows up when it's against the Raptors, and it shows. The Celtics, they just dominated the Raptors after their slight hiccup in the first quarter. And that's pretty much it for that game.
Yeah, having Smart out definitely hurt us defensively, especially toward the start of the game. There were a lot of defensive breakdowns. We could have definitely used Smart, but I agree. I was expecting more out of Waters, but it didn't end up hurting us too much. He got some playing time to get, to try to get used to playing the NBA, more, get more ready. But Pritchard played very well. I would have said it was Teague, but I mean, I'll take that game from Pritchard. Very, very impressive. I do still. It's just without Smart. I do think there's some benefit because he's not a point guard. He's very much not a point guard. What he brings is much more suited for a shooting guard position. And Kemba out, we don't really have that real point guard presence. Smart as point guard isn't bad, but I feel like it just hinders our offensive production slightly. I bet we could get more points. I mean, Tatum and Brown have been going off, but more well-rounded offensive efforts. But I don't really see that as a major problem because we saw that Pritchard, Teague, they both can play. They both can start at point guard, I think. Um, but I do think having Kemba back is going to help us tremendously. Defensively, I think it was just a rough start. I don't think that's something we should really expect. This past week, we've seen Celtics play very well, I thought. We haven't been losing games by very much when we are losing. And we're over 500 now, 4-3 at the time of shooting this. So I, although our record is not spectacular and not what I would have really expected, I don't. It wasn't. They're not really losses because they're much closer than losses. I thought, but a loss is a loss. But I mean, we've seen plenty of great upside. Robert Williams he's been very very impressive when he's in. I thought I've been very impressed with him, especially defensively. Um, Overall, I just think it's going to get better. Uh, it was a little rocky start, but I think we're definitely gonna, we're gonna progress. Then get Kemba back. We'll go. 40-point game from Jason Tatum. Uh, and imagine Kemba's back too. You get three great offensive players. Uh, Tatum, his defensive game has been pretty impressive, especially near the, right under the hoop. You know, trying to get. He's playing better in the paint. He did grow, which helps, but overall his game's been improving, well rounded. Jaylen Brown's very good two-way wing. So I'm pretty excited for the season. I know, yeah, rocky start, like we said, but overall, I think we're gonna end up, we're not gonna be just over 500.
Yeah, Tatum and Brown, they've gotten exponentially better. Tatum, he's gotten bigger, stronger. Jaylen Brown, he's just playing more aggressive. But I would actually argue against what you said about Marcus Smart. I don't mind him as point guard because he has amazing playmaking ability. It might not show up in the stat sheets, but if you look at the game, you can see he makes the passes that he needs to make, and it shows. The only issue is that Smart, he's not that good at getting his own shot up like Kemba. But we have Tatum and we have Jaylen Brown, so that pretty much covers it. The main
I
issue with
mean,
the Celtics is it's not Marcus Smart. It's not Marcus Smart's playmaking ability or the lack of a point guard. It's the lack of bench production.
yeah, it's just more with I think we have people better suited to playing point guard. I think uh, I'd rather I just feel like I'd rather have a different starting five than what we have with Smart in the lineup with Kemba out. But it has been bad. I just think we might be able to get a little bit more offense because there are times when we can't really we rely so much on Tatum and Brown, which it does coincide with your point, about our bench production. It has been less than desirable. Not terrible. It's not like we can't have our bench produce like Clippers did. That 50-point loss. I after we'll talk about this, and I want to address that again, but I do think more consistency out of Pritchard and Teague, Robert Williams, real solid defensively. I'd hope to see more offensively. I think he has a higher offensive ceiling. I don't know if we'll really see it very short, in the meantime, especially with Smart out. But I I feel like we are still missing that major off the bench impact player, that points guy. Teague in the first game looked like he was going to be and faltered a little. Pritchard had a great game. If he can keep that up, I think we won't have really too many problems. But what are you
I
going to
mean,
say
yeah,
about
we
it?
definitely are missing that bench piece, but I personally would rather have Marcus Smart start. And you might be wondering, how will that work with Kemba? I think the Celtics they should go small ball. As the Celtics, when they have both of their big men in the starting lineup, it's terrible. If you look at the stats, they get outscored. They can't play defense with the two big men, and it would just be wiser to go small ball. As small ball is the new wave. We have Kemba, we have Smart, we have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and then we either have Tristan Thompson or Daniel Tice filling in the center spot. That lineup, I think, is deadly. You have so many people that can score. You have the defense, and you also have the playmaking abilities in Smart and Kemba. And you could have Robert Williams start. Like you said, he has a lot of potential, and off the pick and roll, he's just almost unguardable as he has such a long wingspan and can jump so high. So he's going to be catching those lobs.
Well, I do think we could have a starting five of Smart in. When Kemba's back, I do think we could. And even without Kemba, I'd still keep Smart in. I'd just move him over to shooting guard. It's really the only thing. I'd rather
Well,
play Teague, or Pritchard, I'd rather give them a look or two starting at point guard because I just feel like they bring more to that position that Smart does. It might. I'd say you start Tristan Thompson at center. I know Daniel Tice has been good. I mean, he gets called for so many fouls, and they're not even great foul calls all the time.
yeah, and he gets like you said, terrible calls. And since the start of last season, he's gotten the most foul calls out of any NBA player, which is just ridiculous. He doesn't play dirty, or he doesn't really play that physical. He just gets such stupid calls.
Yeah, it's more just they're not. They just sort of start to stack up, But it's more like with him, he can be a liability because he he lets them draw fouls easy, which it's not really his fault. It's just where you go up against a team that we don't want to get, on the free throw line. I don't know if I trust Tice to be in. So I'd start Tristan Thompson at center. Uh, who'd you have at center?
I'd probably say the same since Tristan Thompson, he brings amazing energy. Either Thompson or Robert Williams. Since I personally, as much as I like Tice, I don't see him as a starting center.
Yeah, no. I think Robert Williams can eventually, but as of now, I'd still prefer him coming off the bench. I think by the end of the year, he could, maybe push for a starting, center spot, at least right before Kemba's back. But, we'll see. And then point guard, I think we both can agree it would be Kemba if we had him. But without him, like I said, I'd have Teague. You'd keep Smart at point guard.
Oh, well, I just keep Smart in. It doesn't really matter since the NBA today is almost positionless. But
yeah, but it's just I feel like
we have Kemba running the offense instead. Is that what you're trying to say?
I just without Smart in the pardon me, without Kemba in the lineup, I'd move Smart back to shooting guard. I know it's there's not really like the game has changed to more fluid, but he's not a point guard. Like players that are point guards. He's just not one of them. Having him as point guard, it sort of hinders his defensive ability, I feel like, because, he has to switch on the fly. Like he did at shooting guard, but, he's trying to run an offense,
It gives him more of a role to do, so he has more load on his plate, right?
It's just him, going from running the offense, great playmaking, to trying to come back, play great defense. Like, I love Smart. He's my favorite Celtic right now. But, that workload could pile up. We don't want to ask too much of players. Like, that's one of the things, like bench production. We don't want to ask too much of Tatum. We can't ask him to have multiple 40-point games. But that's just like the main thing, I think. Then you have Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I'd have Smart because, like I said, I'd move him over. What would you have as your final three?
Final three, probably what you would have. I'd have Tatum, Brown, and Thompson, I think.
Yeah, I think one person I have been a little disappointed in is Ojeleye.
In my opinion, Ojeleye, you'd expect him to be a solid defender with how swole he is, but he just lifts weights every day, but doesn't work on his shot. I hate to say it, he's not the greatest 3-point shooter. He's not the greatest defender, not the greatest ball handler, not the greatest playmaker. He just runs up and down the court. He can do the occasional good play, but he doesn't really provide anything special.
Yeah, he doesn't really fit in the Celtics system. It doesn't seem like if someone's going out of town, I'd expect it to be him. I don't dislike him. I'm just not sure if that skilling is there here in Boston. I think he could benefit from a bigger role, bigger defensive role. We have him playing behind Smart, Williams. We have better defensive players than him. Maybe he goes to a different team. He could improve, but it's just he's probably been the player I'm still looking for more out of.
Well, in my opinion, there's actually several players that I'm expecting more of, but that's only because of the potential that's there. In my opinion, Aaron Nesmith, he needs to play better, although he's not been given the most minutes. He hasn't really been wowing me. And also we have Grant Williams, like we said, great defender, but offensively not too good. Like defensively, I hate to say this, but he's slightly overrated. If you look at it, he plays like he has good form. He does all the fundamentals extremely well, but oftentimes he still gets scored on.
Yeah,
So
I think with Smart out, uh, it may help him. Maybe we give him more minutes, more defensive responsibilities to see if, he can start to progress more. But he was who I expected to be the Celtics, their most improved guy, their best, young guy coming in. I don't think it's there yet. Probably will be. It's just at the moment, I don't think I don't think he's one of the first three guys coming off our bench. Uh, he fits the Boston system well. I think he fits better than Ojale. Uh, but yeah, what you were saying, he's very well rounded fundamentally. It's just I'm trying to think how to put it. It's just he doesn't need to round out his game. He doesn't need to work on anything really. It's more just like that like pop. From Marcus Smart, you have those plays, you know that that those like steals. The like behind the back steals where like he goes over one way, defender like leans over to him, swats it other hand. When he there was that play I want to say against the Raptors where he ran fast as he could. Like he went to like block a pass or steal, smacked it out. Ran as fast as he could, laid out to keep the ball in, crashes up against the scorer's table or whatever. It's that sort of like pop factor that you realize he's real good defensively. Like he's a real good player. He just doesn't have that those extra tools that he can use. He's not going to pick someone's pocket like Smart would, but
yeah, well, what I think, what's his name? Grant Williams. What I think he needs to do, he needs to work on his 3-point shot. He can be a tremendous 3-and-D player. On top of that, I think he needs to cut a little. Like Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart, when he first got into the league, he wasn't in the greatest shape. Like compared to now, he had a lot more extra unneeded weight before.
yeah,
But he cut that out.
he's always been that bulldog player, Marcus Smart. I mean, you know, 6'4", 220, I believe. He's built real well, but comparing him now to then, he's
He
I'd
definitely
say
got
he's
leaner.
yeah, but he's still just as strong. He's just
He swapped the muscle for fat. I mean the fat for wait. He
yeah,
swapped the fat for the muscle. And I think
yeah,
that's what Grant Williams needs to do. Grant Williams, he honestly does look sluggish at times. The main thing with him, he has incredible defensive IQ. You can see him run the defense very well. He needs to, but the main thing is get faster, get leaner, get quicker. That's pretty much it for him. And work on his 3-point jump shot.
yeah. Oh, and so I would like to address that Clippers lost by 50 points. This was brought up by certain people, and yes, they didn't have their starters in. But the reason I said I don't know what they're doing, if you thing is, you can't have your bench players playing that poorly. You know, yes, they're not your starters. That's for a reason. But overall game defensively, they had no one in that was able to shut shut them down. They didn't have anyone that was able to really produce offensively. It's just you can't win without a bench. Even the Celtics, Jeff Teague had a good game. Richard had a good game. Even though they're not consistent, you can still rely on them, enough that you can hope that they have a good game. But you can't win without a bench. Clippers, even their starters, no matter how good any team, no matter how good your starters are, you don't have a bench. You don't have anyone coming off your bench. You're going to struggle. But anything else basketball wise you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, the New York Knicks. Now, we may have clowned the New York Knicks before, but the New York Knicks, this is a year, well, not anymore. It was a year full of surprises. The New York Knicks, they are now 4-3. And you might be thinking, why are we so amazed by that? It's because it's a
It's the
winning
Knicks.
record.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the Knicks.
you don't expect that from the Knicks. Like, I'm pretty sure they already have more wins than they did have last season. Now, that might be slightly exaggerated.
Just slightly.
Yeah, just slightly. But the Knicks, they're actually showing some promise. They're young players, well, not even young players. Julius Randle. Julius Randle has been balling out. He's in another's mode right like this season. He's absolutely dominating. And
Yeah,
Knicks fans,
I think yeah, they're playing well. I just feel like they're riding a bit of a hot streak. I don't think like their guys as well as they're playing, I don't think they continue this pace. You know, I feel like it's a very one and done situation.
I definitely have to say the same as it's the New York Knicks. As it must suck being a New York Knicks fan. To all you New York Knicks fans, you better cherish this moment. And
Over
yeah,
500.
exactly. That's
All
pretty
right.
much it for basketball.
Yep. Now football. Uh well, Patriots unofficially. Yes, it's unofficial, but rumor is Patriots and Cam they're parting ways at the end of the season. I mean, I feel like there's not a whole lot to say. It's just Cam's time with us has been, you know,
In my opinion, this is actually slightly sad. As Cam, he was such a good leader. He was energetic. Yeah, he was incredibly passionate. But the past, they just didn't win without Cam. Well, like we saw them beat the Jets in their final game, 28-14. But it's the Jets. It's not that hard.
yeah,
Uh,
it's just that he was a good leader. He's passionate, but you can't
not
just win
clutch.
off of that. You do need more. As much as I love those types of players, it's just he never really reached that, what I thought he was going to get to. Uh, so I mean, him parting ways, it was a 1 year thing. It worked okay. It's just now the biggest question is, who do we get to replace him? The only difficult thing is there's so many options. You can't tell yet. You can't really predict who. There's so much that could happen. Uh, by the end of the season, I think we'll have a better understanding. But without the season fully over for the whole league, you can't tell yet. The only thing we know is, well, Ham's gone. I think we get a middle linebacker or an edge rusher. I do think we just a linebacker, maybe defensive end, but I don't think we draft a quarterback with our first round pick, 15th overall. Like I said, we're either going to get a playoff push or we're going to get a mediocre, season result. We got that's what we got. We got an okay season and an okay draft pick. It's the worst case scenario, but also, I mean, it's kind of nice being able to watch the playoffs without, being so worried. That's like the really one good thing you can say is that you get to watch the games without being too emotionally invested. Overall, it was just a lackluster season from the Patriots. I
There
don't
was
think
so
I.
much. There was so much potential. We saw it in their first few games. It just ever since Cam got COVID, it just was on a downfall. We were doing pretty well. Then COVID hit. Cam was out for a few weeks. Came back and never was the same. Now, I personally, I wish Cam would stay. Not as a starter though. Not as a starter, because as a starter, Pats aren't winning. Cam, he doesn't have the cold-blooded killer mentality. He's not like Tatum. He's not cold-blooded. He can't win in the clutch. But I think Cam Newton, having him as a backup quarterback will be tremendous. Let's say we draft a quarterback, which is pretty unlikely, but let's just say we do it. That provides pressure, that provides leadership, mentorship. Cam, he's definitely going to help a young rookie. And even if we don't get a young rookie, let's say we get a free agent QB, Cam being there is going to add extra pressure. So the quarterback we get will work their hardest to try and stay a starter.
Yeah, and I don't think the Patriots go out and get an older quarterback. Just the way the team's trending, it's a retool. I don't think it's going to be a full rebuild. I highly doubt that. With Belichick here, he's more just the thing with Belichick is he's so everyone knows like what he's like. Once you take that away, once he's like, all right, you know what? He's not gonna throw big money at players. If someone wants too much money, he'll let him go. We saw that with Chandler Jones. He's not afraid to do that. If he starts, getting older guys, it just overall will have a negative impact. I feel like, but I do think, if we get a quarterback, I think it's highly likely we get a quarterback. I don't see any situation where we don't get another one. I think we get a young guy. He can learn from Cam, but it should be a starting QB. It should not be Cam as our starter if we bring him back. But I mean, we don't know. Like right now, you can't really like make a decision yet. Just, you can't make any predictions really. But
I mean, in my opinion, though, the Pats they're pretty close to rebuilding as they have so many veteran players, and there's several notable players hitting the free agent market like David Andrews. So if they go south, then we might as well have to rebuild. I personally will not be too opposed at the idea, as I'd rather have secured wins than a chance to win a few out with our veteran players. But still, a very intense offseason for Bill Belichick and the Patriots head office. So we'll just have to stay tuned and hope for the best.
yeah, and speaking of veteran players, probably the biggest news, offseason wise that Boston's seen probably in a while. Zdeno Chara, 14-year captain, first ballot Hall of Famer. He leaves to Washington. And boy, I'm still not over it. It's such a bad move. There's no silver lining really. The closest thing to a silver lining is he's more likely to win with the Capitals than he is with the Bruins. And I hate saying that. I honestly hate saying that, but it's just all right. Let's spend a good deal. We can talk about this because it's important. It's So drafted in '96, second rounder, big guy. He was drafted. I think he was 6'8" when he was drafted. Comes over. He was drafted by the Islanders actually, and then he gets traded to the Ottawa Senators in the Alexei Yashin deal. Famous hockey trade. Most people know about it at least. Then plays pretty well. He's progressing well. He's 6'9" now, biggest, I mean, most people say he's the strongest player in NHL history. Yeah, he's physically, he's a freak, most people say, he works out. He has probably the most mythical workout, his mentality, his work ethic, in NHL history, people say, how dedicated he is to staying as good as he can be. So he's progressing well. He's a promising young defenseman, but Ottawa, 05-06, they hit, they got to choose a defenseman to pay. Wade Redden, who was very high pick, or Zdeno Chara. They went with Wade Redden. Chara hit the market, comes to Boston. Did they make the wrong move, the Senators? Yeah. Do I care? No, not at all. Definitely no. Chara comes to Boston. He's given the C. He becomes our captain, and he was the captain up until this upcoming year. Uh, Won the Norris Trophy, league's best defenseman. He's been nominated over 10 times for league's best defenseman. He led us to a Stanley Cup 2011. Um, he really is just one of the best, one of the best Bruins of all time. He's one of the best defensemen of all time. Everyone, there's not many times that you see players, unanimously agreed to be a Hall of Famer while they're still playing. And Char's one of them. And, he's going to be missed. Okay, here's the thing. Don Sweeney, Bruins GM, came out and said they want to move in a let me speak. They want to move in a younger direction and have our young defensemen step up. I don't really have a problem with that. Only problem is we don't have a defenseman that can step up yet. We lost Torey Krug and Zdeno Chara. We lost two of our three best defensemen. Chara. People say, he's too old, he's too slow. He was our second best defenseman last year. Overall play, he's still, defensively now, he's not going to have a 50-point season. Obviously, he hasn't, there's no way that happens, but defensively, he's still really good. He helped Brandon Carlo, who's now our best, now he's our second best defenseman, especially defensively. He's our best player, by a good margin, I'd say. He helped Carlo. He helped McAvoy, who he played with for a while. And overall, his impact on the Bruins, you can't replace that. I don't, without him, we are worse. The one thing people are saying, there's two defensemen really that people are saying they expect to jump up. Urho Vaakanainen, Finnish defenseman, drafted first round 2017. When he was drafted, everyone knew it was going to take him a few years to reach the NHL. I don't think he's there yet. He's played 7 games, I believe. He hasn't played bad. No, he's good defensively, pretty solid. But, I think he could have a 30-point season. I don't see him being a very high-scoring defenseman, but a very sound defenseman. Second pairing guy, probably not a whole lot of minutes, but I'm excited for him, within, a year or two. I don't think this upcoming season he gets a major role. I don't see him being in our top 6. But then the other one, Jakub Zboril, who we selected in the first round of 2015, and he's been just very underwhelming. He wasn't, on our first pairing in the minors in the AHL. He wasn't on the first pair. He hasn't got a look in the NHL yet. 5 years removed, going into 6 years, and you haven't played. That's pretty worrisome. Here's the thing. I would love for these guys to play great, but I don't see it as a realistic belief. I don't think it's just what Chara brought. Carlo now, like I said, he's our best defenseman. Well, defensively, our best defenseman's McAvoy, far and away. Top 10, in Norris voting. He's only played 3 seasons. That's really impressive. He is a great defenseman. But defensively, Brandon Carlo, he steps into a bigger role. Charlie McAvoy steps into an even bigger role. But then what do you have? Then our next best defenseman, Matt Grzelcyk. Personally, I like Matt Grzelcyk a lot. Smaller framed, offensive defenseman, moves the puck real well. He's a lot like Torey Krug, just you don't get as much. Krug, great offensively. Everyone knows he's one of the best power play quarterbacks in the league. Then after that, Jeremy Lauzon. Last year, Lauzon, started to get more playing time. He played in the playoffs toward the end of the season. I like him a lot. 6'2", two-way guy. He can move the puck, and he likes playing physical. He plays like a Bruin. I like him. Him and Carlo are going to play very well, I'd expect. Even if he plays with McAvoy, I know he's not really a first pairing guy, but he could be. There's not a lot of holes in his play. Third pair, Kevin Miller, who's back, hasn't played since February of 2019. He's back from knee surgeries. I like Miller. Yes, he's kind of a discount Johnny Boychuk, yeah, I know you probably don't remember him, Johnny Boychuk. He was with the Bruins when they won the cup. Defensively, blocks shots, hits people, fights. He's a Bruin, He's not afraid to, just play mean. And that's probably the biggest thing we'll miss with Char. He wasn't a dirty player ever, but he was just mean. No one wants to go up against him. Now without him, the Bruins, they're getting softer, you know. It's just I don't, you know, I just ran down the defense. Connor Clifton will end up being the sixth defenseman, I think. I like Clifton a lot. In the playoffs, he's a great playoff performer. These past two playoffs, when he's in the lineup, I've been real impressed with him. Uh, he's very physical. He's not very big, 5'10", 5'11", but he's not afraid to, just throw his body around. He's built real. He's kind of built like Marcus Smart. He's built like a bulldog. He's not afraid to, just get in there. And in the playoffs, he produces. He's great at moving the puck. Yes, he last season, in the regular season, he wasn't at that same level, but I still like him. I think he'll get that spot. Seventh defenseman now, probably John Moore. He's who was our seventh defenseman last year. I mean, sixth defenseman at times with all the injuries problems we had, but 2.5 million, I think it is for John Moore. That's too much. I don't dislike him. It's just he doesn't fit with us right now, and it's just out of who we would move from defense, Char was probably the second to last person I'd expect. I'd expect McAvoy, because he's really the piece we're going to build around for the future. It's not a good move. No one really likes the move. The best reaction is, okay, I guess. No, if you're Don Sweeney and you come out and say we want to move in a younger direction, but you got 31-year-old Craig Smith, who's never been anything more than maybe a second line producer, it that's mixed signals. It's just not it's just not the right thing to do. I mean, most people are pretty upset with it, and yeah, I don't think anyone expected it. I pretty sure I thought he was either going to sign with us for another year or retire. But I mean, good on him. He's probably going to end up playing first line with Washington. Even if he gets bumped down, he's just Washington. They're looking to be a really good team now. You know, Probably going to end up better than the Bruins, to be honest with you, just because the Bruins have lost so much this offseason. Krug and Chara, as the two guys that left. But Marchand, he was injured. Pasternak's going to be injured at the start of the season. And it's going to be a disappointing year, I think. I think we do make the playoffs. We're not going to have as much of an impact as we had the past few years. We're not getting back to the playoff or the Stanley Cup like we did 2 years ago against the Blues. Overall, I've been very disappointed this offseason. I I mean, I know you don't know a whole lot of hockey, but do you have anything to add about Chara?
Well, yeah, it definitely hurts to see a Boston legend leave, but he wanted on the Bruins, he wasn't gonna get the role he wanted. So, and plus, this Bruins, they're moving on. As if you have Chara, like he's always gonna be the number one guy. He's gonna be the captain. Don't you think it's time to have for the Bruins to get another leader, to let someone else take that leadership role?
I'm not disagreeing. It's just now's not the time. We're still we not now, but I mean, we were in a position to make another run at the cup. We probably could. You know, he didn't ask for a lot of money. All he asked was to not be scratched. I wouldn't scratch him by no means. I wouldn't even have him on the third pair. He's not at that point where he can't do anything. He gets beat sometimes by the fastest players in the league, but you're 6'9". You've got the biggest wingspan in NHL history. He can use his stick. Someone gets around him a little bit. He's the strongest player. He can still just he's mean. He's a Boston Bruin. He's a Boston sports player. He's mean. He's hardworking, hard nosed. pretty much everything you want in a Boston player. It's yes, McAvoy should be getting more minutes. He should be getting pushed into a higher role, and he's gonna. Brandon Carlo, same thing. But you aren't better without Char. You aren't better in the future not having him this year, because even if you want to give more playing time to some of the young guys, Vakanainen and Zaboral, they aren't gonna. They're not gonna play. They're not gonna play anything other than sixth defenseman, fifth defenseman, maybe if Kevin Miller gets injured again. It's just a different team. I would agree. I could. I think. All right, you got an oldest player in the league. And you got plenty of young D guys. You want to give time to that are ready for the NHL. But the Bruins don't. They don't have those guys that are ready for the NHL at this point. It's just I understand, but not with this team. Next year, yeah, I would understand it more next year. But this year, I really don't get it. There's no way he doesn't make the Hall of Fame. There's no way he doesn't get his number by the Bruins. I wouldn't be surprised if when they put his jersey up in the rafters, they stitch the C on, just because how long 14 years as the captain. He, in his time as a captain, won a Stanley Cup, over 10 nominations, I guess, nominations for the best defenseman. He won it one year. He earned the right to retire with the Bruins. The fact that we didn't offer him a deal, we didn't even offer it. Don Sweeney said, he offered him verbally. If you don't offer him a chance to be okay with that, and if he says, no, I want a bigger role, and you say bye-bye to your 14-year captain, that's a terrible move. No one likes it. It's such a bad look. Okay. Going into the 2019 playoff, Don Sweeney won GM of the year, that year. Because he made a lot of great moves. But also, he's made terrible moves. 2015, 3 first-round picks right in the middle of one of the best drafts in NHL history already, only 5 years out. He whiffs on almost all of them. Jake DeBrusk was the only player that's played more than 6 games out of the guys. He had one good year as a GM, and everything else has just been such a letdown. Bad moves. I'm good with him being gone. Look, I get, he played in Boston for a long time, Don Sweeney, when he played with. I have nothing against him. As a player, watching old games, Bruins, it was real fun to watch. He was real good. Never great. He was never the defenseman Chara was, and we kept him around for a long time. My patience for Don Sweeney it's wavering.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a bad move, but you always got to move on. It's still, like you said, it could have been done later. It's just unfortunate.
And also, hockey news. We are filming this Tuesday night before the World Juniors Championship. That is tonight. The U.S. is playing Canada. This is going to be a very, very fun game. I will do a breakdown of it on the YouTube. I was thinking about doing ones for the other games, but not yet. I'd rather do like a big one just because it's not always the most entertaining. But I'm excited. I think we're going up against a Canada team, 20 first-round picks. They carry 22 players at max, so they've outscored their opponents 41-4. The only thing is they haven't played as tough teams as the U.S. has. The U.S. had went through Finland, Sweden. All the Canadians really had to go through was Russia. Even then, Russia, I still think that Sweden and Finland were better than them. So now, Bruins, we're playing Canada, or yeah, the Bruins. The U.S. we're playing Canada,
Amateur hour
and
moment.
I think I think we can pull it off. It's going to be close, but goaltending wise, that's the biggest thing. Spencer Knight, first round draft pick. Goalies are almost never taken in the first round. Knight, he's really good. I think he would be able to shut them down. Player comparisons. Trevor Zegras, best player this whole tournament by far. He doesn't have, 19 other first round picks he's playing with, and yet he's now tied for second in all-time points by an American player in this tournament. The only guy ahead of him has 2 more points in 19 more games. No, 10. Whatever it was. Basically, he's far and away points per game. He's incredible this tournament. I think he can go off. I'm worried about him at all. And, I think he's better than all the Team Canada players. People talk about Team Canada's depth. Yeah, you got guys that can score, but the just the overall, I don't want to say brutality, it's not what it is, but the Americans play a very sound game. USA Hockey, they run a thing, this is a US team, USA Hockey, it's like this program thing run by USA Hockey, people, to get young players, as ready as they can be. And we've seen the whole, we had one struggling game in the exhibition or preliminary, whatever it was. If we can find the flaws in Team Canada, we can exploit those flaws. Ziegler, he's had a phenomenal tournament. He's been absolutely incredible. Cole Caulfield, small 5'9", but he's been a little bit underwhelming, but still a real good player. And defensively, someone I've been very impressed with. I wasn't sure how he was going to do. Team USA captain. He was fourth round pick. Same draft as Zegras. Same draft as Caulfield. He was always good at moving the puck. That was never a question. But defensively, blocking shots, he's shutting down lanes. He's been our best defenseman by a good margin. I think if Caulfield steps up, Zegras steps up, and York steps up, they'll have great games like they have been. We can do it. I think we can shut Team Canada down. They're a very offensive team. But USA, really offensively, I think, if Spencer Knight is on his game, I think we can pull it off.
I mean, I'd probably say the same thing. Go US. It's the national pride. And let's get this win.
Yeah. And that's I mean, this has been a longer episode, so we'll end it here. So if you're not, we got a YouTube link if you didn't know. You can go to that breakdowns of Celtics games. I'm going to do the World Junior Check game and Bruins. They start in 9 days.
30th, I think.
No, 14th.
Wait, I thought the NHL starts the 30th. What's enough?
13th.
All right, well, they're starting soon.
Yeah. So 9 days till the Bruins start. I'm excited. Lots of sports news. Even if Chara left, there's other good things like Celtics are winning. I'm still a little upset about the Chara thing, but overall, entertaining sports week. Celtics, they're playing real well. Patriots, we'll see what happens. I don't think it gets worse than this. Bruins, they're going to start. So, I mean, yeah. Thanks for tuning in.